And so listen, you know what? I do realize that basically what I just did was I did something that I don't really want to do with a podcast like this. And with any luck, I'm not going to be doing this regularly. But I just basically talked about really two bad news stories back to back. And I don't want to be a negative Nancy over here only talking to you about bad news, so I'm going to tell you about one more thing that I discovered this week that I am very thankful for, and this thing is absolutely amazing. And that is called Karate Combat. And so I know that we talked about Sugar Sean O'Malley right at the start of the show, and now we're circling around, we're getting back to the combat sports thing, but I have to tell you that, you know, if there was a perfect combat sports league for the pandemic, you know, Karate Combat, they actually figured this thing out. Like, this is absolutely amazing. So basically, this is what they did. Was that they gathered up a whole bunch of these, you know, full contact karate fighters. And then they went and they built themselves like a little fighting pit in a studio. And then they green screened the entire place. And then on that green screen, later on, they add in like alien planets. So the concept of Karate Combat is literally this. And so, you know, the pandemic is on, and so Karate Combat, they need a new venue. And so they sent out a message saying, hey, who wants to host us? And they get a message from aliens. And aliens come with a spaceship, and they round up all of these full contact karate fighters, and they take them off to these alien planets. And so literally the first few episodes, they're actually commentated by Brian Callen on the first few episodes, and for some bizarre reason they went with Marshawn Lynch. I don't know why, because he's kind of awful. But literally they're like an alien jungle. And then in the next one they're like in some like alien scrapyard someplace, like you know, like you would see on like Tatooine in Star Wars. And now these most recent ones, they're in like this huge city that they call Neo Tokyo. And so the whole thing, Bas Rutten is very involved with Karate Combat. For anybody who doesn't know who Bas Rutten is, oh my God, you need to go check out this show because you are in for a treat. Bas Rutten is one of the biggest, meanest, toughest guys on the planet who's also really, really hilarious. Like there's a segment on the first episode where they're explaining the rules, and literally it's like Bas Rutten fighting a monkey. And the thing ends with him like wailing, like they make it look like he's wailing on this monkey, and these people have to come and haul him off of this monkey. It is just, I'm pretty sure that no monkeys were actually harmed in the filming of that segment. But my God, what an absolute treat it is to watch. It's like combat sports optimized for nerds. Like combat sports optimized for sci-fi nerds. And the other thing that I'm going to say about it, I mean, as much as the visuals are amazing, you know, they don't actually, they invested some money in this, obviously. They made this thing look really good. I know that CGI images, they're a lot cheaper than they used to be. You know, mostly I think due to the proliferation of video game studios, I think that has a lot to do with it. But the visuals are amazing. But you know what, even more than the visuals being amazing, a lot of the fights are really good. Now, the one thing about this particular promotion compared to, say, the UFC, is it, you know, obviously it lacks a broad fan base. You know, the fighters aren't very well known. There have been a few fighters that they featured on a few of these episodes. Right now there's 9 in all, but a few of these episodes have featured some fighters who have been in the UFC women's divisions. The rules are very different. Like there's basically no wrestling, there's no submissions. You can wrestle a fighter down, and then pretty much once you got a fighter down, you got 5 seconds to kind of stand over them and try to ground and pound them, and then you have to let them back up. For some reason, they're not allowed to kick between the hip and the knee. You're not allowed to kick the thighs. It's not really clear as to why. You can kick absolutely everywhere else. You know, but there's no jiu-jitsu, so if you happen to be somebody who, you know, is kind of maybe on the fence a little bit about UFC because you like the stand-up fights where they just kind of stand and bang, and you don't like it when they get on the ground and really start to wrestle around. Which, in some cases, if you don't really know what you're watching, yeah, obviously that can be really tedious. But if you're the kind of fan who likes the stand-up fights where they just stand up and they go at it, then Karate Combat is exactly the kind of promotion that you're probably going to want to check out. And as a matter of fact, the best part of it is you can pretty much see it for free. Everything's on YouTube. The way that I discovered it was a A shortened version of it came across my Facebook this week, and I was so fascinated just by that one kind of still image, like the thumbnail of it, that I had to check it out. And man, am I ever glad that I did. I mean, right now I think there's 9 episodes, at least for the duration of this season. It looks like they are going live on YouTube on Sundays. And anyway, I am tremendously impressed with what they're doing. I have a hard time believing that Karate Combat is ever going to be as big a promotion as the UFC. But I think for people who are interested in a particular variety of combat sports, I think that they could actually really be onto something here.